Niteesh, say hi. Hello, folks. Hello, hello, hello. We are live, and today we are talking about Typescale and UI design with one and
Hey,
only
what's up?
Niteesh Typography Yadav. In between, there might be delays because the internet he is using is the Grand, the Royal, the BSNLs. So we may have some issues there. If you can hear Niteesh, if you can hear me, sub changa see in chat. Let's so Niteesh is not new to this this channel. We've already had one introduction course with Niteesh, and right now then now we're gonna get into deeper. Before we get there, I want to quickly say hi to everyone who's in the chat. Yashwant is here, Glitch Glider is here, Anurag Shukla is here. Hello, Anurag. Ritesh Patel is here. Anurag Folio is also here. Shreya Shekhar is here. Hello, Sarthak is here. Nikhil Sajjan, Ritesh Patel, Adil Khan. Welcome to all of you. And let's get started. So, Nitish, I just wanted to set a context of where this all started. Like, we do portfolio reviews and everything, and tons gets tons of designs you see are not like the type scale is all over the place, and we know that once you get it, it's a simple concept. You don't think too much about it, but when you don't know about it, it's quite a mystery. So we're gonna the stage is yours.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Siddharth, for having me. And then, hi, guys. So I'm here to talk about maybe I would say a simple topic where, like, once we are done with this, and then you'll just say, like, oh, this is just this, and then it's not a big, huge issue. But again, like, this impacts a lot in terms of your design. So basically, if you're talking about even if these days, what if you are a beginner, you might have been copying certain designs, and then at times you'll end up thinking about like, okay, I've copied some design, but again, I look at my own design, and then there is a mismatch, and then these are certain kind of like basic things which we tend to miss out. I was also at that position at like certain point of time where I couldn't figure out like what the problems are. Like I have used the same typeface, I'm using same sizing as similar sizing. I would say it's same. So and then, but still, like my design looks like okay, it looks okay, and then like that designer you are trying to copy and learn from, his designers look way more finished. So I think in that, like the whole section, there is one bit that we are going to talk about today in terms of like typography, which is a type scheme, and it's going to be a very short thing. So yeah, I'll start
You can keep
sharing
your
my
questions
screen.
coming in. Yeah, Nitish, when you
Yeah,
start screen sharing, I will switch, and I hope you
of
folks
course.
can.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit. You should be able to see Nitish's screen, folks. Let me know if you can. Nitish, you gotta close the sidebar, yo. Yep. Okay, I have to increase the size again. 1 second, Nitish, just adjusting. And there we go.
Oh, sorry. Are we set?
Yes, sir, we are set.
Cool, guys. So I think the first and foremost question that we tend to come up with, like even if you're not aware about like what type scale is, so even it's almost like okay, as the name says, there's some kind of scale. So basically, if we talk about type scale, then there are two things which you can say about it, which is like it's basic sequence of numbers. It's no like hard rocket science or something. It's just like putting numbers together and then creating. It's basically creating your set blocks and then so then fixing information on those specific blocks. So it's basically a sequence of number, or it's a relative ratio. It's a ratio of relative values where like one value would be x and then a second value might be 2x, 1.5x, or something like that. So it's basically like these two things you can remember if you want to explain it to somebody else from today onwards is just two things. It's basically a sequence of numbers or a ratio of values. So basically, because there are no units associated if you're just creating these kind of things. Values later on once you are understanding the concept.
Nitish, your voice, we lost you in between.
Which can start with pixels, which it can be points, though we are not going to refer at points because that's the old print based thing. So we are going to mostly focus on pixels, rems and ends. And then I think in that also, like I basically, since we are starting with the topic, I would try to focus on pixels because that would be easier to understand as compared to, because then I'll have to give you a history about what are rems, what are ends, but some of you might know, some of you might not know. But just to simplify the whole concept, I'll just stick to basically pixels. So again, what is
Nitish, lost you again. One sec. You may have to
to be
restart.
used, or what
Nitish,
basically why?
Nitish.
Okay.
Yeah, you may have to
Hello.
restart from. Yeah, I lost you in between. Uh, uh, your voice might is breaking a little bit. Try pausing your video. Nope, can't hear anything.
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Now I can. Awesome.
Stop my video and then I'll keep on. Then I'll resume.
Yeah, it's much better
Okay.
now. Nitish can hear you now.
Cool. It's working now.
Yep.
Cool. 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 So, guys, this is one of the benefits of staying in a small city. Good. I'll continue. So I was talking about what type scale is all about. So basically, if we are talking about type scale, then one of the major thing why do we even use type scale is basically if we are talking about the whole concept, then what we are trying to do is we are trying to make our like interfaces or like whatever design we are designing aesthetically pleasing. So that's one part of design where one is functionality, then the another part is and then in terms of type scale, it does have functional value, which I'll tell you like what that functional value is. But again, like the starting point always starts with like why did people start working on type scales? And then this was like to create books much more aesthetically pleasing, and then like good to read, and then to create flow and all those kind of aspects. So I'll quickly run you through few aspects which will define for you like why people pay so much attention to using type scales in their designs, be it like print or it is your like basic interfaces. So in this case, like let's the first thing which comes into play is your consistency. So in your designs, you need consistency in terms of like visual appeal. So it has to be so okay. Your one size is like maybe 20 pixels, and then your second size is maybe 16 pixels. And then so just imagine your one heading is 20 pixel, and then second heading, which is like same high in terms of hierarchy, is the same hierarchy, but again you are using like 19 or 18. That doesn't make sense. That creates a disbalance between your whole reading experience or whatever design that you have created. So one thing is consistency, and then consistency is not only your friend, it's a bigger friend to all the developers you're working with. So the moment they know like what are the consistent values, so then they don't have to second guess at times like maybe you have done. So this is like you are dumb proofing your own designs, where at times you would be termed as dumb because just imagine your heading, like your first heading was 20, and then where you have created a scale where in your design the second heading, so basically so h1. So right now I won't even use h1 h2 h2, like that would be slightly narrowing down into a small thing, but your one heading is like maybe 20 pixel size, and then same level of heading like down the paragraph you're using 19 pixel. So now, yeah, so basically, yeah, the developer can take a quick call that do I use 19 pixels? Because in the so he'll see the third heading as well, which again might be like 20 pixels, or like fourth heading, which is again 20. Then he can make out that okay, that 19 might have been a mistake. So right now, what you're trying to do is you're creating that kind of like communication where that the developer doesn't have to contact you. Hey bro, like you have done like 19 pixel, is it supposed to be like 19 pixel, or is it supposed to be like 20 pixel? So in that case, like this creates consistency, and then you'll have kind of good balance between development and then whatever you are designing. So consistency is the first aspect. And then we move on to another like second aspect, which is again a very bigger one, which we have already discussed. It's all about rhythm. It's
Hmm.
all about making it aesthetically pleasing. And then in rhythm, if I like if I define a specific term for rhythm in our design, that would be your baseline grid. So how does it repeat? Where does it repeat? So is it like those kind? So how rhythm will come into play? I'll show that as well. And then this is the biggest thing where like I was talking to Siddharth earlier, where a lot of these videos which have multi-million views, like teach you shitty things which you'll end up doing, and then like they counter say. So in one video they'll tell you one thing, in second video they'll tell you another thing. And then when you go and start designing, then you'll end up getting confused. So I'll show you what rhythm means in your typography scale while you're setting text. So that's like all about baseline, right? And then I'll show you an example. So third comes like hierarchy. I had already mentioned, but again, what hierarchy does for you, it creates contrast. So basically, how does a person like if he's scanning? So reading. So basically, if you want someone to read, so it happens at multiple levels. So first you skim through the information, okay, and then you kind of do basic kind of reading, and then third step comes out to be very thorough reading. So and this is like our current world. So now most of you like just imagine like if our attention span has like reduced drastically. First, you'll just quickly go through, skim through the article which you are about to read. You'll see like does it have keywords that I want to read about. So you won't spend 8 minutes reading a like shitty article, and then by the end, like if you pay attention, your 8 minutes are wasted. So you skim through the articles, you find out the right piece of information, and then you kind of go and decide that okay, do I have to spend that 8 minutes? And then this kind of hierarchy is something which helps your user to find out those things. So maybe just imagine you are designing an app which is like maybe something like which is all about articles, which is all about news, where there is more and more text. So in that case, what happens is, so your headings define like whatever kind of important keywords which are there. So again, so if those headings are very small, then again, if you're scanning the whole page, which is like 5 to 7 scrolls on a phone, and then maybe 3 to 4 scrolls on a desktop. So that is also like if the size of the paragraphs and the headings are same, or like the subheadings are same, then you'll end up spending more and more time in terms of finding those keywords, which is again like you're forcing your users to you're wasting your users time, and then that person might not even turn back to reading articles on your website. So what you're losing here is you're losing your like precious readers, those who feed you, and then your company basically. So that is hierarchy. That is how hierarchy helps you like creating contrast. And then third thing is movement. So again, in this case, like I've already told you like how people read. So movement also helps in terms of like okay, if you're skimming through articles, so in that case, like how movement is going to happen, some people will just pay attention to the headings. So the movement will be like heading to heading. They are jumping from those spaces. So again, that kind of the type scale or the sizing is something which is directly proportional to the type scale which you have said, is going to help them create gaze points which are your focus point at the end. So and then it will help them to find out the right information in a quicker way, and then make their life easier. And I
Are
think
hierarchy and movement related to each other? For, like in that sense?
they're like directly proportional, to be honest. Like till the time, okay, your so just imagine your movement is going to happen like where given an example like heading one. So some people tend to like stick to headings, which I am am a big fan of it. So
Right.
I tend to read headings, subheadings, and then paragraphs. I don't even care. So
Right.
if I find so in this case, what happens is if the subheading has a very good keyword, then I might end up going to the paragraph and reading, okay, does it make sense? So if I'm searching for maybe like, I'll just plug in one thing, which is AR. So AR information, like a lot of fluff is happening around right now because a lot of people are not aware about it. So in that case, what I do, like this is coming from personal experience, and then this is what I've observed as well, where people are just like searching for keywords, and then they're entering specific paragraphs, reading information, and then kind of deciding, okay, is it worth reading?
Right,
And then
right,
this
right.
is another
That
I
is why
would
Medium also gives those things, and I keep telling people during portfolio reviews, use bullet points, use bolds,
yeah,
use highlights. So I'm looking for those keywords. I'm looking to
yeah.
find to rest completely get where you're coming from, folks. Let me know what Niteesh is talking about making sense to you, or would you like more examples? Any questions you have during, just keep them flowing on the chat, and I'll jump in with your questions as and when it's relevant. Yeah,
Cool.
go on, Niteesh.
So yeah, again, one another example which I want to give is I read a lot of these academic papers,
Hmm.
which are just like okay, it would be like 10 to 15 papers talking about research and a research study, and then those are the most boring thing you'll ever read. So in those cases, like this whole movement in terms of the headings and everything becomes quite important. Like where do I find it the right information? And then if it is nicely if the paper is set in a very nice way, then you'll like enjoy reading it. And then again, you'll find the best like reading example and the worst reading examples in research papers.
Hmm.
So I think this is a task for you. You can find out some really good websites, or maybe I'll share it later. So yeah, moving further, before I jump to Typescale. So now we are talking about, like, now we know what Typescale is about, and then what is the importance of it. So again, if we are to jump on learning about Typescale, or like if you are at a stage in a project, what is the stage when you start thinking about a Typescale?
Hmm.
So the first thing you have to be logged on is something like your typeface or your type family is set. Then before that, making a type scale doesn't make sense, because I'll tell you like what are the consequences and what happens after this. And again, the second step which you take is, what is your base size? So base size can be like of two types. So I tend to start with one of the major thing, which is what is my paragraph text, and then why? Because that's one of the most crucial ones, because headings are much more like what size headings can be. It can be bigger or whatever. Like bigger sizes are not a huge issue,
Hmm.
but again, smaller sizes are your biggest which make and break your system.
Hmm.
So in this case, if your website is heavily relying on text, which is like, maybe if you're designing for, maybe there is a case where you are designing for articles, again going back to the article stage, where a long form text is a lot.
Hmm.
Then when I say long form, that means like a lots of information in paragraphs. So that is your long form text. And then
Right.
in that case, if your base size is set, that's the starting point for you. You have to set your base size, and this is basically this. There is I think in our last video we shared like how to choose those sizes. I think, if I remember it correctly. So in
How to
this case,
choose the sizes? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked
yeah,
about text size, and yeah, we
yeah.
spoke a little bit about font weight and text sizes. Yes.
Yeah. So in this case, what happens is, once your base size is set, so how base size is set is going to depend on like what device you're going to use. So base sizes are totally dependent on the medium you're using.
Hmm.
So for desktop, your base size can be totally different.
Hmm.
So like on a desktop, like maybe your 16 pixel might be working well. So,
Hmm.
and then on smaller devices, you might want to change that, like based on your case distance, because this also depends on like what is the distance you're viewing your text from. So in desktop, the sizing is going to be quite different. So in this case, I think if you just quickly want to see it, I'll just there is a site called sizecalc.com,
Mm-hmm.
which will give you slight overview on how to calculate different kind of sizes for text, which is based on distances. So what would be, so if you put in the value like this is my text, then it will show you like what is the approximate size it creates on your retina. And then basically this is slightly another science. I won't like spend time on that. But again, taking an assumption that you have selected your base size in this case. Okay, so that is quite important. And then base size, there are two aspects which you can pay attention to. If you are like a long form heavy,
Mm-hmm.
then you can pay attention to like your paragraph text. You can assume that as a base size text. Or if you are something like, if you are designing, so even if you are long form heavy, then at times you'll also have like images with captions
Hmm.
whose size is going to be much more smaller. So now what happens is, if you have so these are the two this is a basic two-prong approach, where at times you won't even need you'll just need your base size to be like the text size you want people to read. And then in second case, where if you know that there is going to be one more smaller size, then you test these two sizes side by side on the devices. So basically that second
Hmm.
size is going to be your smallest size in your whole design. So
Right.
basically, so you start in that case, in paragraph case, you start in between. So you will go to other smaller sizes as well. But again, these are your two testing grounds.
Hmm.
So if you have selected like 16 pixel to be your like base median size, then you'll also pay attention to like if I had to use 8 pixel size
Hmm.
for my smallest text, which can be like at these days it's become quite popular, that 8 pixel size in your status bars, and then where your menus, a lot of people are using those on around there, and then
8
those
pixel or
become
8
quite
points?
uh, pixels. Sorry, just correct me if I use points again.
No, no, no,
So in this
you
case,
use pixels. I was just confirming.
okay, yeah, it is. So we are going to talk about like mostly pixels.
Okay.
So in this case, like just imagine like you're using 8 pixel size, and then
8 pixel won't that be
you,
too small? Like 8 pixel be
yeah, exactly.
tiny.
Yeah, so that happens at times, like when you had already set like 16 pixel to be your size, and then now you're just going like in multiples of 2, and then like you can't go 9. Then some people forcefully just like use, because they had already set their system, and then they'll end up, so since they've set their base size, and then they are so at the end they like the whole type scale is set, or
Hmm.
like the basic values are set. So at the end they'll just push these kind of values, where they might end up using 9, or they'll use 8, or they'll use 10. But again,
Hmm.
so depending on typeface to typeface, that like a 9 pixel size might be like for one typeface might be equivalent, like visually equivalent to size of typeface, which is 11
Right.
pixel, 11
Would it be
pixels.
better explained with an example, Nitish?
Yeah, I can show you.
So, folks, I'm going to quickly pick up the question that that you folks are asking. Alokse's consistency spelling was wrong. All right, Shreya, would like to know the strategy for web versus mobile? I think Shreya, Nitish covered some part of it. You have to test it out, and what are the benchmarks for these platforms also for iPad? Yeah, so I think we can take some examples. Take example of how the entire scale depends on the typeface itself, and how the same font size in two different typefaces can be very different, and then we can move on to other examples.
Let me just open Figma.
While we open Figma, what is the general base size? General base size, the default browser is, I'm guessing, 16 pixels is what
Base size
default
for what?
base size of font. I'm
There is no
guessing
base size defined from browser side.
browser defines 16 pixel as the default size, no, for everything. I mean, for body copy.
Okay, in that case, so not we are not talking about the type scale. We are just talking about a general
General,
trending.
yeah, general browsers.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not related to type scale. Never used 8 pixel, that too small. Yeah. Body text is generally 16. Yes, Adil Ikhan is right. Body text is generally set to 16 in browser by default. But that's exactly what we're going to see as an example, that 16 means very different sizes in different, type family and specific font that you choose. You can do it live, Nitish. We like doing live stuff as well. You don't have to get prepared. You can do the
No, no, I'm
magic
just
in
like
front
opening
of our eyes.
till the time. There is a lot of mess, like too many files are open.
I can imagine. All right, Sarthak is here. Sarthak, do you mean we should have multiple scales for different screen and breakpoints, or we adjust basis for these
In this case,
breakpoints? It's the same thing, right, Sarthak? Like to adjust according to breakpoints or having different scales for different breakpoints. So what you do essentially do, and Nitish, you can correct me if I'm wrong. What happens in browsers is you change only the the base font size or the body size, and everything else is defined in relative to that. So at your breakpoints, the base font size, which is for the body copy, changes from, let's say, 14 to 16, and everything else will change proportionately. That is one approach to go about it. But if you really want very customized this thing, then yes, you will have to custom style almost for every breakpoint that you're trying to address.
cool. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Again, now if you see, these are two typefaces, which so one is Libre Franklin, and then second one is Yorobudo. And
Hmm.
then if you place them together, and these are same sizes, again you'll end up seeing like these. So one is bigger than other one, and then like even another. There are two kind of things. So there is one like mathematical equivalency which is there, and another one which it can be like visual. So
Optical
if I'm
would be
using,
better.
yeah, optical. But again, a lot of people won't get that. So I've used that optical word a lot. Then
Awesome.
nobody
Let's
understands it.
teach the
Yeah.
pro
So
deals here. We can teach the pro deal here, Nitish.
cool. So in this case, what happens is if you see visually this typeface like a Roboto on side, and then right next to it I've kept Libre Franklin. So it will appear Libre Franklin will appear to be much more bigger in the same size. And then if I
Wider as well.
it's going wider, and that's one of the reasons, because your inner like counter space is opening, which is much more wider,
Ah,
so
right.
that gives you an impression. So this is one of the reasons like why type design is less of a like mathematical job, much more of like visual job. And then if we just like do a random thing, which okay, I think I we all like playing. So yeah, this is the same size we had. So can you see the changes?
Yeah, it's like goes up, down, big, small, like
So
it's all over the place.
so in this case, like there are different typefaces are designed for with different proportions. So in that
Hmm.
case, like the baseline changes. This happens a lot with multi-step typefaces, and
Hmm.
then so one of the best example, if you want to see the typeface which looks smallest, like kept next to any other typeface, would be Mrs. Eve's. And then one of the reasons why it is smaller because the X height of that typeface is very small. So
Okay.
if you, I think I can show you an example of Mrs. Eve's pictures. And
Very
it's a
curious to
classic
see
example.
this one. Oh, but why do you say the X side is? You said less there.
Yeah, very small. So and this typeface appears to be very small. So I think I don't have the license for that. So I'll just use an image.
Okay. So what are the consequences of, let's say, having? Okay, let's try to get closer to that. Ah, okay. The E is yeah, definitely smaller than the that sort of E.
So in that case, like this is like the typefaces with low X height tend to be like less legible. So in these cases, if you're using the typeface with large X height to be 12 point, and then for that same to get the same visual size, optical size, you'll have to use for Mrs. Eves, and you'll end up using like 14 to 16 pixels
Right, you'll have
for
to
with
adjust
same type.
to
Yeah,
get the same optical feeling of 16 pixel.
yeah.
Folks, I hope that example clarifies of how, like how, and that this brings us to the last where we last left off with Niteesh, whereas you got it. That is why selecting a typeface which matches the purpose that you're trying to solve, the problems that you're trying to solve, is critically important. For example, Niteesh had given an example of if you are doing mathematical annotation, scientific literature, or you're doing multilingual, there are tons of consideration that come into this thing, and one of the consideration after it comes for typesetting is how at which point do you set optically saying that okay, this is my base size. So it's just not about saying okay, 16 pixels is the base size. You have to make sure that optically it gives the feeling that you're trying to go for.
And plus, this is one of the reason you said why I started with this basic thing, that you have to finalize your typeface first. Then you'll move on to like deciding the sizes. Because right now, if you see like and there is Roboto on one side, there is Montserrat in another size, and then if I just like zoom out, which one like you'll see like one will be slightly much more visible at a stage, and then another one. So in that case, like I might end up using 1 point less for Montserrat, and still my
It is still
visibility
legible.
might move.
It's still more
Yeah,
legible. Yeah, yeah. Hello,
yeah. So
the
this is
L
not
is
the
merging.
greatest example. Yeah,
Hmm.
this is not the greatest example, but again, like this is how your changes happen, which depend on typeface to typeface.
Right.
So now I'll just get back to the presentation. Can
When
you
we
see my
use
screen?
responsive sizes, we don't have to set the base size. What do you mean by responsive sizes? Oh, you mean by the in proportionate to screen size? I'm not sure if that is a wise thing to do. Typically, people do a two-step process of linking everything to body size and linking body size to breakpoint. That is far easier to do and manage for tech reasons. Yeah, Nitesh, we can start.
Cool. And then another thing, like before you move forward, then your baseline grid has to be like set. So
Oh,
if you're
interesting.
using 8 pixel grid, if it is your 8 pixel, I'll show you one of the examples, and then where like the whole system fails at times.
Hmm.
The thing I was scribbling out about earlier.
Right,
So in
I
that case,
remember.
okay, you have to like okay, your baseline grid is set. And then now, if these basic things, at least like there are multiple things which I won't get into detail, but again, if you're just going designing for your like personal project or something like that, or then at least these are the things that you'll have to pay attention to.
Hmm.
And then even if you're designing a small scale project, then these are the least amount of things that you have to pay attention to before starting your type scale decisions. So moving further, like you have to like selecting your type scale. So what are the options which are available for you? So is there any recipe for that like is there any like guide that you can follow? So in that case, like I'll just show you what specific thing you can just like have a look. And then, so one of the site that I quite like, which is like open source site, is your type-scale.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to open it, just open it, and then we can just, yeah.
Okay, types. I'll just
So in this case, like
type this
there are
out.
few
Type-scale.com, right?
type that's, yeah,
All right.
yeah, cool. So in this case, like there are few set things, there are few set scales which are already available, and then these basically values are inspired from basically what you call the musical notes. So basically the musical scales, and then that's where like the whole values are coming from. Like how does this whole ratio repeats, and then what is there. So one of the things like a lot of people get confused like why where to use which kind of scale. And this is one of the things where which is like if you are sticking to like your top scales, which is your major third or like major second, your perfect fourth. So these are the ones which provide you low difference in contrast. So if we just go to like maybe major second, so then you
Hmm.
see these are low contrast. So whatever values, whatever increments which are happening are like from the last step, there is no like huge amount of contrast which is available for you. So these kind of like this kind of scale works quite good, and like if you're talking about your mobile interfaces, where like at times you'll need like quite good amount of flexibility in terms of smaller sizes and then smaller increments. And then like if you're talking about print, then you can just like go up to like maybe your perfect fourth, your perfect fifth. It's like okay, do you think like you'll end up
Wow.
using this biggest size on your mobile interface? No.
No, but
So
on
these are the
Billboard,
kind.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So in this case, and then in print also like this, in magazines, these work out really well.
Hmm.
But again, if you are designing something which falls under that kind of category, then you can use this size as well. So right now, it's almost like so there is no hard and fast rule, but again, it's totally up to you how you decide it. So these bigger sizes, what you can balance them with is you won't use the biggest size, which is available here. You'll start maybe from the second step, and then what you'll end up doing is maybe you'll use a condensed typeface to squish in more like more letters. So now in this case, like if I'm using like instead of Poppins, I am using maybe Oswald or something. There's Oswald.
That Y font is also that. I forgot the name. Opens and condenses there, right there.
Not that condensed.
It's not condensed at all. What condenses that? PD
They
Sense
don't have.
Narrow was there. PD Sense Narrow is there,
I
and
think Oswald would have been really good example, but
Oswald
still
is
okay.
condensed or something.
So in this case, yeah.
Oh.
So in this case, like you get a quite good idea, like why again coming back to the whole same like that have kept on doing since I started on it, that you have to choose your typeface first. Now it will make sense. Like okay, now you know like your typeface is not that wide.
Hmm.
Then it makes sense to have this kind of scale where you can go up to this big size, and then you'll end up you can use this like this scale for that, like maybe your perfect fit or like maybe a golden ratio, something like that. So I'll tell you one of the things like the whole rant is coming about like about to come for this. So this is there. So
Prepare for golden
if
ratio
you are
rant.
talking
Golden
about
ratio
like
rant. OP
smaller
in the chat.
increments, you stick to like basically major third, second, and then contrast, which is like I really use my paragraph. In that case, like you'll end up using like basically these smaller increments.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, bigger increments. With hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, okay, cool, cool. So in that case, like again, what used to happen? I'll just get back to my screen. So now you know what are your available options, and then these are options which are like set values which you can use, and then you might not even want to use these values. And then what one of the major thing where like this, so I have already told you one key thing here is you have to test all these values in your target devices. So just imagine like you were about to use like a golden ratio on your mobile interface, and then you were using a wide body like typeface, like maybe Montserrat, your Gotham, or maybe your Avenue or something, which are like much more wider. And then
Mm.
even like just imagine I'm using space grotesque here as a typeface, and then if I use those huge sizes for my headings, and then like basically going with the golden ratio as my type scale base increment. So in that case, like my bigger headings are something which are going to end up looking like huge, and then
Mm.
I might be able to just fit like does it work in just one line, and then this whole thing will overflow into three, like basically three lines. And then what like my interface will look like, oh okay, like the article which was supposed to finish in just
Right.
like two scrolls, which it is going to end in like maybe five six scrolls.
Right.
So these are
Versus
the
if you were making
decisions.
a type only this thing, then maybe you want the headline that for editorial reasons in print or for whatever, then it's a different.
Yeah,
That's why again coming back that you gotta choose the typeface first. Choose the typeface first.
yeah. And then again in this case, you can have these like bigger sizes for just imagine like your headings
Lost you there, Nitish.
to in your editorial, or like basically your guidelines that are going to be just one or two words, and then which is like okay, does single line,
Hmm.
then it will cover in just this much size. So this bigger size can work there. So in this like whole contextual way, like you have to study what kind of text you are presenting, what kind of scenario, what kind of information you are about to give. So
Right.
this is like understanding your text is the first key to like basically moving to any other step.
Hmm.
And then target devices, I told you, like on desktop, it will slightly differ. Like your choices, if it is desktop only, and
Right.
then if it is like mobile as well, then you'll like basically you'll work with multiple limitations,
Hmm.
and then you'll arrive at a like center point where those values. So you optimize either for your mobile devices, you optimize for like your desktop devices, and then in that case, like you can also have two-pronged approach. So basically, you decide one scale for your like mobile devices and second scale for your desktop devices.
Right.
And then again, that can be one thing which is quite possible if there is
Hmm.
no like hard and fast rule which is there. So because these are going to be set values, and then you can repeat them. But again, that is not advisable at times. And then if you're able to balance that, like maybe for so how I do it is just imagine and just again get back to one of the examples. So before I go there, so I think this is a good time to share that. So again, I'll go back to the browser. So one of the typographic scale which most of us remember, the increment values is the classic typographic scale,
Hmm.
which is there in. So now you can see it on my screen. So this is a really good article. I'll just share the link so that you can share it with everybody on.
Yeah. You can just put it in chat.
Yeah. So again, you can go and define these kind of values, which is like okay, I'll come when I'll come back to this, like how these values are defined and why these are defined. So which is like you don't have to do that. But coming back to the basic thing, where this is the classic typographic scale. In this case, so the values earlier it used to happen was the scale goes like this. But
Hmm.
if you just go back and then even open your like Photoshop, old timers hi. So if you have opened that, so at times you'll see these by like current default values which are already there.
Hmm.
So you tend to see
Even Microsoft Word
like
or
maybe
something used
like
to have this, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this has been like more than like ages ago, like centuries ago. These values were decided once, because earlier what used to happen was people used to buy typefaces, and this a typeface came in a proper case, which is
Hmm.
like physical typefaces. So you'll just get to buy 12 point, or yeah, that point is a right notation right now, because
Right.
at that point of time points were used for selling typefaces. There were no pixels,
Right.
so you'll end up buying like 12 pixel like Helvetica, 12 pixel, like maybe Granzon. So all these kind of Times New Roman or something like that, or maybe you'll end up buying like 24 point like Times New Roman. I'll
Right.
set my heading of newspaper in that size. So that was the case. So in this case, like the early typographers, they came up with these values. So basic scale was supposed to be the typographic scale, or this comes from your basically musical notes. But again, in these, like
Oh,
the typographers tried and tested, and then what they found out was there were certain redundant values which they didn't
right.
require. So
Like
this
14 in this one,
this
14, 16, like are so close, or 12, 14, 16. Like we can drop one of them and still work about things like that. Hello.
yeah. So in this case, what they hello,
Yeah, I
can
think
you hear
there's a
me?
lag. You can continue, Nitish.
Hello.
Hello, continue, Nitish. There's a lag. Nitish, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue.
Yeah. Hello. Okay, cool, cool. So in this case, like if I just go and look back at these values. So earlier, like typographers, what they found out, like these there are some redundant values which they didn't require, or like which were not much more helpful. So they reduced those values, and then they came up with like intermediate values, just like this. They felt like 55 point size in text was not looking that great, and then it was not even required when they were setting big kind of text. And then these values, just imagine these values were used in, if you see old British posters, then those were very type heavy posters. And then these are the people who like finally got to see like what are the differences, and then how those were devised at the end. So they ended up like coming up with intermediate weights, not weights but intermediate sizes. You're like 53 and 63, they found out like 60 was working quite well, and then they came up with 70, 72, which is quite an important. So if you go, so I won't discuss this, but again, just try to find out the importance of 72 point size in fonts. If you're a type nerd, then you'll end up knowing this. So I won't tell you. So again, like they have
Quiz
simplified
time.
certain values. So they simplified certain values, and then these are the values which we have been using for ages now, and then these still work out really well if you want to use them. So in this scale, like what like basic example I was coming at is, just imagine this is the kind of scale you came up with. Okay, in this scale, what happens is you can so how you define like this sizes. So there are two things. Either you can design like two different scales, one for mobile and one for desktop, or you can design a scale which is around like a single scale, where you decide the values. Okay, I have two specific values around here, where 16 goes for my paragraph text in my mobile, and then in the same scale I have like 18 pixel as well available for me. So I will use that will become my 18 pixel. That 18 pixel value will become my paragraph size
Hmm.
for my desktop. So that's how you kind of balance and then pick up values from the same scale. Now you don't have to decide like multiple scales, and then you create basic your styles out of the same scale.
Right. So you're basically on the same scale. You're just redefining some elements to be like starting from here or starting from there.
Yeah,
Your starting point is changing basically on the scale.
yeah.
Interesting.
And then in this case, like you can shift it, like maybe your scale was starting from 10 for mobile devices, or like 10 for your desktop devices,
Hmm.
and then in mobile you want to keep it smaller, you want to keep it bigger. It's depending upon size. You can
Right.
just like change it. There is no hard and fast rule, which I want to tell people, because this changes case to case.
Hmm.
In certain cases, you would want to like keep smaller sizes in your like mobile devices just to accommodate more text,
Right.
and then a bigger one in your desktop. And then this is there. So again, getting back to that same question somebody has asked, like, do we require like multiple scales for like mobile and desktop devices? You don't need that. Basically, you create one scale, you assign values
Hmm.
based on the sizing to like, maybe in this case like your 18 size. So basically 18 size, where so 18 so 16 16 pixel regular of a specific font you have chosen becomes what your paragraph size. And then that same 16 can be like what happens is maybe in your desktop. So maybe 16 you have chosen for your desktop, oh sorry, mobile. for desktop, you can use 16 for your basically captions.
Hmm.
So for regular text, you are using like 18 pixels for your regular text in desktop. So again, you're using the same value, but the styling can change. Your caption can be italic.
Hmm.
So in that case, you might end up using the regular 16 pixel for your captions as on desktop, and then you might not even you might change the styling as well. So styling is another case. But right now we are just talking about scale. So
Hmm.
again, scale matters there.
Wow.
So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope that helps you out, folks. And I see, I think we have covered most of the questions asked. Anshana has asked about can we use golden ratio in type scales. I think the rant is pending on golden ratio. I think that's the only
Okay.
thing we are
Cool.
left with, Niteesh. Rant OP in chat, folks. Rant OP in chat. We want
Okay.
a rant.
Okay. Getting back to that. So now, so this is something I'll get back to Figma. Okay, cool. So now a lot of like the greatest YouTubers out there, like what they do is maybe 16 pixel size
Right.
right there. And then, so in this case, like, so just imagine you have decide like my base size is 16 pixels. Okay. So now what happens is your next size, which your scale gives you, is 25.89. What do you do?
Okay.
Do you use this 25.89 around this area? So maybe so let's do, can you see my Figma screen?
Yeah, I can see a Figma screen. Your voice broke in between, so I think I might have lost one context.
Okay, cool.
Yes, you can continue.
So this is my first size based on that, and then I get 16 pixels. Okay, and then I'll also introduce my baseline grid. I'll just keep it. I tend to use 4 pixel quite a lot. So
Right. And you can read
this.
up about 4 point and 8 point and consequences of those folks as well. Grid systems.
Right now, I'll just use those basically. I'll set it to automatic. Store stretch, stretch. My baseline grid 4 pixel. My gutter is also 4 pixel. Here comes my like baseline, basically 4
Hmm.
point basically.
You lost your voice there for a
So
second.
just it's right here, and then in this case, what happens? Yeah, nothing. I just like in this case, what I did was I just created a 4 pixel grid, and
Hmm.
then I'm just like setting this text around this area. And
Okay.
then what happens is if I so in this case, I'll end up doing. So the height of this. So if we are using golden ratio, then again the next size I'm going to use is going to maybe let's use 67.77.
Hmm. 67.77. Ah, okay. 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 Right.
So in this case, like this is 67.
You're
This
trying
is
to go
what is so in this
16 for
case, like
golden ratio, right?
what? Hello.
Hello. Are you trying to go like, uh, so how did we decide the next scale here on golden ratio scale?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 16 pixel is the base size.
Hmm.
Can you see my screen and
Yep.
the
Yep.
browser open type
Yep.
scale?
Yep.
So in this case, what will happen is basically this is going to be the value, and then
Hmm.
so I'll just maybe paste some proper text. Okay, tell me about type scale. Just so this is a 16 pixel size with all the default values. Nothing is changing. So even I think I will just and then I'll just do the next increment, which I'll not go really huge. So basically, what was the next increment? It was 25.89. So in this
Right.
case, do you use 25 or 26? Okay, that becomes fun problem.
Right.
And then I've seen people teaching. What they teach is like, okay, just lay whatever your size is. So this is how they teach. Oh, there is a cool thing which is
Losing you, Nitish, for 1 second.
the golden ratio. You
Ah,
have a
right,
next
right,
size. This is a
right.
lot.
You just
Hello.
multiply in the field
Yeah.
and it automatically gives you the new number. Right, right. Hello. We seem to be having technical
Yep.
difficulties, folks.
Hello.
Yeah, back again, Nitish.
Yeah. And then again, in this case, like if you're trying to like balance these out again, you'll end up getting into problems where this won't balance at times, and then it will balance, and then it won't work out that well. So in that case, like maybe uh, basically point values are not that great.
Hmm.
So what problems this will create for you is in rendering. So when your pixels are being rendered in different browsers, basically experiment, open maybe a medium article in Chrome, and then second in Firefox, and then third one in your like basically maybe Safari. So all these will render them differently, and then but again the problem which comes with like point size rendering is if there is point size rendering, then the browser doesn't know where to put that like half pixel, and then whatever that point one pixel is. So it tends to like it might work really good in like very high resolution interfaces, but the people were people were on low resolution devices, the text will suffer in those cases. So in this case, like it is always advisable to stay in like multiples. So basically, don't use like any point values, and just use just basically stick with non decimal values. So this is one of the major things. Don't get into trap of doing this. And then again,
Mm-hmm.
like basically, if you're scaling, then again you'll end up like your sizing will go off at times. And then one of the good thing where you can balance basically I think this is slightly clear. So at times, what I do is the problem people run into is so when you're doing the line heights, okay, whenever you're like basically introducing a leading. So in that case, if you do basically these kind of changes, okay, so which is like you add a odd value. So in this case, what I tend to like tell everyone is try to keep these values even values. So in that case, like whatever, so your now next increment which is going to happen is going to be like if you're using 8 pixel spacing grid. So in this case, like the spacing remains quite. It won't get fucked up at a very nascent level, because in this case, this will again become something like
Mm-hmm.
this, and then it will be like your. So you'll again
So
will
basically, you're
go to
trying to get the line height as the same in multiples of 4 as well, divisible by 4 as well,
yeah.
because your baseline grid is divisible
Yeah,
by 4.
and then
Interesting.
again, same thing applies for another aspect which is quite useful is your paragraph height.
Mm-hmm.
So which in CSS becomes your margin
Mm-hmm.
bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So in normal thing where this is going to be your next paragraph,
Right.
but this kind of thing doesn't work if you're creating lists. So in lists, like what we do is we introduce. So it's a good practice. Very few people do it. Just imagine this is your list. Okay.
Paragraph styling and list styling you're talking about?
Yeah. So basically, like if you apply the same styling for your like paragraphs and the list, then your list will look somewhat like this. And then how you can improve this basically is which makes reading easier as well. Is maybe if you want to introduce just find it. And then yeah, again, if you want to use funky kind of glyphs in your like designs, then just go to glyphy.io. This is a nice site you can just choose from nice available glyphs from different sites. Yeah. So in this case, what happens is have a star for my bullet. Okay, and then yeah. So these are your pointers, and then if you introduce like maybe your paragraph sizing, then which list is quite fast and easy to read. And
Hmm.
I'll just make the same thing about as well.
Definitely the second one. It guides the eye way better.
Yeah. And then at times you'll also you if your text becomes quite long,
Hmm.
you're designing like for article or something like that. So in that case, what will happen is the list will so your paragraphs will look quite close to each other,
Hmm.
and then like basically your paragraph. So I'll just again copy some text, which at times can be a good practice and bad practice as well. And so basically, it's this. Okay,
Hmm.
this is the break. So this is how like your entry point is not there, not available. So
Hmm.
in this case, like earlier, what used to happen was people used to
Enter.
have a tab.
Yeah.
So you know where your entry point is there. So at times, this paragraph might end up being like this. Okay. This is your paragraph now, and then this is your second paragraph.
Hmm.
This is your second paragraph. Then are there two paragraphs or is there just one paragraph?
Can't tell.
Yeah. So now what happens is in earlier days, what used to happen was for print we used to use so even before like so the earliest thing was I think now if you remember I'll show you one of the glyphs which some people will remember what it means if it is available in the paragraph.
Section paragraph. That P thingy.
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh,
Sections,
cool.
subsections.
Yep. So in earlier, if you see earlier manuscripts,
Your voice is breaking, Nitish.
like so signify that this is the starting of hello.
Yeah. You're back again.
Is it working for now?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. So that if
No, we
you
lost
so
you
in
again.
earlier manuscripts
We lost you again. We lost you again.
it had been
All right. Try again.
hello.
Yeah. Try again. Can you hear me, Nitish?
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
So in earlier days, what used to happen was when they hello.
Yeah.
Can
Go.
you hear me
Go.
now?
Go for it. Go for it.
Cool. So basically, going back to the same fact I was telling. So in earlier days, when the spacing was quite like in the page has to accommodate all the information, what used to happen was, and then every so it was much more like it was cheaper to just use macro symbol, which is your paragraph symbol, tell the users, okay, this is the opening of the new paragraph, or
Hmm.
this is the opening of new line, or something like that. So in that case, those were the symbols. That was the starting, and then later on, what the next thing which used to which happened was like basically tabs are not working in this case. So basically, this was one of the like second notation which used to come in. So where like you don't want to show, you don't want to give a lot of spacing between paragraphs, so you just like create a tab space. So this was another like notification that okay, this is your second paragraph, and then this is the entry point for that. So this was a second kind of tool which
Hmm.
typographers use to just signify the beginning of a new paragraph. So now in our case, like if that is not working, and then if you see like the articles on my site, they also have like margin bottom for this
Hmm.
specific reason, so that like people can just quickly go and search like for different kind of information. So in this case, like okay, now you know like where the second paragraph starts. So in this case, like you can so maybe you have read this like quickly skim through this paragraph, and then you like you didn't find any good information. So you can quickly jump to another paragraph. Okay, it might have certain different kind of information which I was
Right.
looking for. So this kind of thing helps in those kind of scenarios where it's very long form kind of text. So yeah, this is one of the example, and then I think I'll get back to another aspect like where this whole discussion so far has been very like centric towards the app which have running paragraph text.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Now let's talk about apps like Spotify. Okay,
Right.
which don't have that much running text. They require like basically different kind of small
UI
strings of
elements.
text. Yeah,
Hmm.
small strings of text, which is like which can be max to max one line or something like that. So in that case, like how do you start with the type scale? So in that case, instead of starting with, so basically earlier I mentioned again two-prong approach. So where one was like deciding the basic the size for your long form text or your
Mm-hmm.
paragraph. That was the starting. But for apps like these, you start with the smallest size. So you design like you basically map down or you design your basic wireframe, and
Hmm.
then you see like what is going to be my smallest size of the text. So is it going to be the name of the track, or is it going to be that like smallest? So maybe if you just want to quickly open Spotify on your phone, so maybe just go to the
I'll open Spotify and show people as well. So you can see Spotify people. Yeah.
yeah,
So you can
just
see there's
open.
one title, there's artist, this is one like this word cannot exceed this size, right? The followers does not have a lot of space to go. All of these need to be in very contained pieces. If you look at the sidebar, your library, like you don't have a lot of space here to do things. Like look at that 2 day thing. How much space do you think you will get there? So this is what we're talking about when it's UI related type scales. You were saying Niteesh, you wanna start optimizing the base for the UI first,
Okay, so somebody said like 8 point size is very small or
right?
something like that like earlier.
Right.
So now I think I'll just ask you guys to just open your like Spotify app on your phone.
This
So
1 hour
just
thing looks like eight pixels.
yeah, so in that case, like even if you go to your navigation at the bottom, I'm using Android phone, so sorry for that. Like if I think the navigation on
We'll have to
iPhone is
check on
also
app.
quite similar.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah,
to check on an app.
just open it. So I think so that like I can just refer and then tell.
All right, all the way at bottom. Should I go to?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you
Your
talking?
navigation bar which says home, search, and
Ah, right,
library.
right, 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 right.
So yeah, so just guess what size that is going to be. So that's how you start. Like that is your small size. It's not even the name of the tracks. It's that size where you have to
Wow.
start. And then so in this case, like so just imagine like if your dad is reading this or your mom is reading this,
Hmm.
will they be able to like even figure out like what is written there? So I think this is something which is like a bad decision right here.
Hmm.
So a lot of other so I think this is one of the mistakes which major apps also do. So which is right in front of you now.
That is
And
why they
then again,
try to add icons so to make it
yeah.
easier for the folks.
So in that case, like it's icons. Some right now, what is happening is a lot of apps are trying to just like resort to icon, and then
Hmm.
now in this case, like they what. So even I think I won't rip much on Spotify because I think I won't take the case. But again, that is not something that's not a readable size, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
For a and then it clearly shows like either it has been taken at a that decision came at a later stage, or
Right.
like it is an anomaly in the whole system. So again,
Right.
which like using anomaly word is something which brings me to the next part. Like there are going to be times where you'll have to break your system. So
Hmm.
where it doesn't have to be like all the values are not going to work out. So in that case, you introduce a different kind of anomalies in between. So maybe so earlier your whole so again this is where your ratios will fall short.
Hmm.
So in this case, just imagine like you have created all your app and everything, and then there is one request comes in from your business business manager or like your product manager. It can be so basically from marketing or whatever any other team, and then they go like, okay, can we introduce this like specific feature?
Hmm.
And then you didn't think about it, and then now like if you're trying to balance that UI limit, then either it is looking quite big or it is like looking quite small, because
Hmm.
you have either have an increment of 12 or in your scale, or you have a 10.
Hmm.
And then but again like that is not balancing out quite well, because right above it there is an element which is 12 pixel size.
Right. Right. Right.
There
Right.
is not enough so in that case like you just want to balance it. So in that case you'll add an anomaly which is like, okay, for this element I'll just break my type scale, I'll break from my system, I'll
Hmm.
introduce this 11 pixel element which is going to come here. So
Exceptions to
in
the
this case, that's
system. Right.
yeah, yeah, and then which is quite okay to do. But again, this has to be done in a limited manner, that like maybe you introduce one or two anomaly sizes which work for very specific kind of case, and
Right.
then you don't use for that for you, and that also that doesn't go inside the system, that stays in that specific page for that specific
Right.
element,
And heavily
no
documented
nowhere
that
else.
this is an exception. This is an exception. This is not
Yeah.
the norm. Yeah.
So yeah,
All
that is
right.
the. And I think so. Again, now that I have told you about all the rules, now basically it's almost like you don't have to like stick to all these rules. They these are like these were designed ages ago, and then and now like once you have reached to a stage that, and then basically these type scales don't like know what so these were designed for like earlier systems.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew like we are going to use it in these kind of interfaces. Nobody knew like we are going to have apps like these which will have
Right.
a navigation which has to be this much small. So in this case, now you take a decision like I'll create my own scale, and
Hmm.
then that scale has to be something like it. Basically, what you'll try to do is the initial 4 points, which is like you'll try to maintain consistency, rhythm, hierarchy, and movement. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be something like you can come up with your own formulas, which I told you like which has been devised. Again, that's this is quite like nerdy thing to do, and then I think I won't recommend this. There are easier way to
Right.
do this. Can you see my screen?
Start with a standard scale and then
It's like
modify it.
article typographic scale.
Can't see your anything on your screen, Nitish. Hello? Hello? Nitish, am I audible? This is the Zoom call era, folks. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Now see it?
No.
Hello.
That reminds me of Kusha का pledge दोस्त. अब दिख रही हो? अब? So no, can't see, can't hear you, Nitish. Can't see anything on screen. We might have lost Nitish. BSNL OP. Alrighty, I guess. Gotta wait till we can hear Nitish. I hear something. Something I hear from Nitish's side. Nitish tried speaking. कोई है.
Hello.
Yes, I heard hello from Nitish. Can't hear you as well. Rohan, you can't hear me. I can hear my audio here. No, Nitish can't hear you. All right, I think what we're gonna do is try and fix this. If it doesn't get fixed, I sent wrong message to wrong person. Ronak says hi, hello, 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 folks. Nitish, try speaking once more. I think we have now. You see two of me. That's too much of me. No, no, that is not acceptable. Alrighty, Nitish is back. Yes, Nitish, we can hear you now.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. I'll just get back to sharing my screen. So yeah, can
All
you see
right.
the screen?
Yes, 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 yes.
Cool. So now, so what I was talking about is coming up with these kind of formulas. If you like maths and
Mm-hmm.
then if you like functions, then you can come up with these kind of formulas which people tend to come with. So,
Mm-hmm.
but again, like I tend to skip, let's skip this, and then I tend to like follow a specific format. Like maybe I'll just work with increments of two. I'll work with like okay, like into two x values or something like that. I come up with my own ratios. So in that case, like so you can design your own scales. So based on that kind of proportions, and then but again in that fact, like you can start you basically you start with one of the scales and then see what values fit for you, and then you can drop other values. So that
Mm.
is again like one good way to start out, and then at a later stage you'll be able to kind of come up with your own ratios which work out really well. And then ratios can be like it's not hard and fast rule that it has to be a multiple a ratio which has to be a quite a multiple or something like that. in your scale it can be like basic decisions that I, so for my text I'm going to use 16 pixels, then I'll go for my headings I'll end up using, so for my main headings I'll end up using like 36 pixels, and then in between like for my subheadings so I'll try to use maybe 24 pixels. So this is the kind of thing, like for your basic interfaces this is something which is quite feasible, but if you're creating a design system then you'll have to come up with these kind of formulas or these kind of proportions,
Mm-hmm.
because these kind of proportions what they help in is like if your scale is not working that great,
Mm-hmm.
then a person can just like come up with like those kind of values.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you have created like a basic scale, then that's well and good. If you want to create a formula like this,
Mm-hmm.
that's again like an added value, and then I can show an example of this.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to so very few like uh, these sites or brands do this. So if you go to IBM's typographic specs,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find the formula which is already there, and then they use a custom one. I'll just again, so that I'll share it with you. You can share it with everyone on YouTube.
All right, I'll be adding all
Cool.
these links to the descriptions anyway, folks, later on. Right now, you can find it in chat.
Cool. Now, if you want to see the scale, this is their scale, what they are using right now. Okay. And then the RAM values, I won't go there. I think you can just like define it
Another
in
story
pixels,
for
and then
another day.
yeah, it's a bigger thing. So again, in that case, like they have already come up with these kind of functions which they use to calculate all these values, and then again, it's already there. So their formula is this, and then where y0, what they are assuming is going to be like 12 pixel, something which so they keep their base size to be. So in RAM, they are taking that base size to be 16 pixels. And but in calculation for the formula of the scale they're using 12 pixels. So I think I won't get into this because otherwise it will get
That's a whole
confusing.
lot of,
Forget
yeah,
this.
that's
Yeah.
another level of
So
insanity.
right now just forget rem, just remember the base value that they had taken for their formula is 12 pixels, which we were talking about. Like in our case, in this scale we were using 16 pixels, if it me. Yeah.
All right, Nitish, if we can see your face, you can stop sharing screen. Then we will quickly
Cool, cool, cool.
wrap up and say goodnight to Janta. So I hope this was useful to you folks. Let me know what did you think. Was this useful? Was this interesting? Did you learn something new? We're gonna continue to do on this series, and depending on your questions and what you learn from here, we can do a follow up. This, as you can see, there's ton to learn. There's technical implementation stuff. There's like we early on we started with the optical decision making and adjustments and things like that. So there's it's a vast field depending on the problem statement that you folks are exploring. We can set up the next live stream. And if you found it valuable, please hit that like button and let us know in chat that it was valuable. And one thing I want to say is
I
Nitish.
think hello.
Yeah, are you able to hear me, Nitish?
I think I read an interesting comment from Siddharth.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah. Go on, go on. You can address that one. I was gonna come to that. Sorry, Nitish, can't hear you. You may have to switch off your video again. BSNL OP, BSNL OP. Back again. You're back again.
Hello. Sorry. Yeah. Cool. So I was talking about like this interesting comment by Siddhartha, which like he is sharing one of the easy fixes, which so 1 pixel drop shadow. But again, like this is something which is a quick fix. And then for sites, like just imagine like if you're handling a site or like if you're handling a design system for a bigger
Mm-hmm.
brand, then doing these kind of fixes like tends to drop your value because basically you won't design you if your design system is failing that way, so as a designer that job has not been done well. And then again, so if these kind of fixes work well if it is small site or if it is like a personal thing, but again for a larger scale these kind of quick fixes would like break because it
Hmm.
will work on one browser, it won't work on another browser. and then this kind of thing. Also, like one good thing if you want to read about, if you are working on very large scale projects, and the projects which include like Windows devices, where and then which, so right now uh,
Hmm.
we as designers design in silos of like retina devices. We don't even know like what happens to other screens. So
Guilty as
just
charged.
read about subpixel rendering, which is the most important thing if you are a designer. So yeah, so in that case, like you know, like how all the systems, all the nice things which we design break in most of the devices which people use.
Right. All right, I think that brings us to an end. Any other question that I've missed? Any other comment that I've missed? Nope, nope, nope. We covered this. We covered this. We covered everything. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Niteesh, for doing this for us. This has been in a long, long, long pending live stream. Thank you so much. There's Niteesh OP happening in chat. So thank you so much. You know what OP is, right?
No, man. I'm
Overpowered.
totally out of this.
You're
Okay.
overpowered. You're unfairly overpowered in this game. So that is what we are acknowledging, that Niteesh is overpowered. And thank you, Niteesh, for joining us. And thank you, Janta, for joining us on this wonderful Friday evening and sticking around to talk about one of the technical subjects of design which other people don't talk about. I hope this gives us another starting point, new vocabulary, new things to look out. Check out all the links. I'm going to link them in the description afterwards as well. You can find them in the chat as well. Read those resources and you can hit Niteesh up on Instagram or tweet at him, or you can, if you want to me to bully him, help you bully him to get on the live stream, so we can learn from him. I can do that as well. Happy to do that on this channel, folks. So, and once again, thank you, Niteesh, Typography, Yadav, for joining us. We're gonna bother you again with the next topic. And Niteesh, in the beginning, I really wish I wanted to edit where Niteesh was like, just half an hour, 15 minutes max. We done. Niteesh, look at the time. All right, all right. Uh, you can say good night to audience, and
Cool,
then
man.
we can
I
close.
think I just hope like this was helpful.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful too. And so far, it looks like it was helpful for so many folks. They have given it awesome likes and everything. All right, Janta, we'll see you. Good night. Take care. Shabak khair and sweet dreams. Say good night, Nitish.
Thanks, bye.